The river didn't sound right that morning. Sajid stood knee-deep in the slow-moving current, the mist so thick it turned the water into glass. Normally dawn brought chatter, frogs, ripples, the flutter of wings. Today there was only silence. Even his net felt heavier, dragging against something unseen below. He tugged once, twice. The weight didn't move. Then, a hand broke the surface. It wasn't thrashing. It wasn't reaching. It was just there, pale and swollen. Fingers curled slightly as if holding on to nothing. Sajid stumbled backward, splashing water over himself. His mind told him to run, but his body froze. The hand sank slowly, vanishing beneath the murky film. No bubbles, no current, as if the river had swallowed it whole. He stared for a long time, then forced a laugh that died in his throat. Probably a dead goat, he told himself. Probably cloth. But as he turned back toward his small boat, something brushed his leg. Soft, deliberate. Like fingertips tracing his shin. He didn't scream. He didn't look down. He just climbed into the boat, trembling, whispering the prayer his father used to say before every fishing trip. Jopani le Gaya, Allahusko Amande. May God give peace to what the river takes. The mist closed behind him. And from somewhere downstream, another net splashed, though he was the only fisherman on that stretch. By noon, the sun burned through the mist, and Sajid sat by the bank, staring at his soaked net. Nothing in it, not even a fish scale. He'd been fishing this river since he was 12. The locals called it Kuni Darya, the Bloody River. They said it got its name from the mud, stained red in monsoon season. Sajid knew better. The stories were older than that. Men disappeared here sometimes. Not many, just enough that people whispered. His father, once the best fisherman in the village, had drowned in these waters 5 years ago. They'd never found his body. Sajid had been the one who found his father's empty boat, the net tangled like something had pulled from below. He didn't talk about it. Not even to Imran, his closest friend. That afternoon, Imran arrived, his shirt dark with sweat. "Didn't see you at the docks," he said, dropping his gear beside Sajid. "Went early," Sajid muttered. Imran squinted. "You look pale. Catch anything?" Sajid shook his head. "Nothing," Imran chuckled. "This river's cursed for you, brother." Still chasing ghosts. Sajid's hands tightened on the net. The word ghosts made his skin crawl. He wanted to tell Imran about the hand. He wanted to say that something down there was wrong. Heavier than mud, colder than water. But the words stuck. They fished side by side until sunset. The air was still, unnaturally calm. When Imran's line went taut, he grinned, until he pulled it up, a scrap of shirt. Torn, waterlogged, reddish-brown, they exchanged a long look. Neither spoke. That night, back at Sajid's small hut by the river, the sound of dripping water wouldn't stop. He searched the roof, dry. The floor, dry. The noise came from under the door, faint but steady, like someone wringing out a soaked cloth. He opened it. No one was there, only his footprints in the mud, and one more set beside them, smaller, bare, leading straight into the water. The following week blurred into uneasy routine. Sajid tried to forget. He told himself it was his imagination, fatigue, maybe trauma. But every dawn, when he pushed his boat out, he saw ripples spreading from the same spot in the river, as though something rose just before he arrived, then sank again. The old caretaker at the docks, Haji Karim, "Noticed? You go too close to the bend," the old man said one morning, chewing tobacco. "That place doesn't let go easy." "What do you mean?" Sajid asked. Karim spat into the river. "Your father knew. Ask him." Sajid stared at him, unsure if it was a cruel joke or senile talk. "My father's gone." Karim gave a thin smile. "So is the river's mercy." That night, Sajid dreamt of nets, hundreds of them, tangled together beneath dark water, filled not with fish, but with faces. His father's among them, eyes open, mouth moving silently. He woke drenched in sweat. From outside came the faint creak of a boat rope tightening. He stepped out. His boat was moving, slowly drifting away from the shore, though there was no wind. Barefoot, he waded in and caught the rope. The water was colder than it should have been, and deep below something glimmered, like a silver coin. He reached down and froze. It wasn't a coin. It was an eye, human, open. He stumbled back, fell into the mud, and didn't return to the river for 3 days. Imran came looking for him, concerned. You're losing it, Sajid. This place, it's... Sajid cut him off. Did you ever see them? Hands, faces? Imran frowned. No, just fish. Maybe you need rest. But that evening, when they went out together one last time, Imran's net caught something heavy. He cursed and pulled, and from the depths, the same swollen hand surfaced again, the same gesture, palm up, fingers loose. Only this time, Sajid saw something else. A piece of rope still tied around the wrist. The same rope from his father's old fishing gear. Imran panicked, shouting for help, pulling the net toward the boat. Sajid grabbed it, but the more they pulled, the heavier it got. The water churned violently now, dark and red with mud. Cut it, Imran screamed. No, if it's him, Sajid's voice broke. The river roared. Then the boat lurched violently. Something below yanked downward. The oar snapped. Imran fell in. Sajid reached out, screaming his name, but the water swallowed him instantly. The surface went calm. No bubbles. No sound. He dove after him. Nothing but silt and cold. When he resurfaced, his boat had drifted away. On the bank, Haji Karim stood watching silently. Sajid staggered out of the water, coughing. He's gone. Karim shook his head slowly. The river keeps what it takes. Sajid grabbed him by the collar. Tell me what's down there. Karim's eyes clouded. Ask your father. Sajid froze. 5 years ago, Karim continued, your father found something. Old bones tangled in a net. Tried to bring them up. Next morning he was gone. The bones stayed. The wind shifted, carrying the faint sound of splashing. Not from the river, but from inside Sajid's hut. He ran. The door was open, swinging in the wind. The floor was wet. His father's photograph, the one nailed above the bed, dripped as if pulled from underwater. In the reflection of the glass frame, a face behind him. Imran's. Pale, waterlogged, eyes open. Sajid spun around. Nothing. Only the faint smell of mud and decay. He dropped to his knees, whispering, Jopani le Gaya. The river outside gurgled in reply, and from the dark doorway came a low, wet breath. Morning found the boat adrift near the bend, empty. Villagers said Sajid must have gone after Imran and drowned. Haji Karim told no one what he'd seen that night. A man standing waist-deep in the river, talking softly to the water before letting himself sink. Weeks passed. The fishermen avoided that stretch. But some mornings, when mist covers the current, a lone figure is seen standing in the shallows, a man with a torn net, whispering prayers to the river. They say if you listen closely, you can hear two voices, one asking for forgiveness, the other for peace. And sometimes at dawn, the water ripples without wind, as if something just beneath the surface still breathes. It started with a scream no one admitted hearing. Just before dawn, under the rusted bridge of Kasbah River, a sound cut through the mist, brief, sharp, and wet, like air leaving a broken throat. By the time the first fishermen arrived, the fog had thickened so much the bridge seemed to float above the water. Zakir, the first to cast his line, felt the vibration before he saw anything. The water beneath him shuddered. Not from current, but from something alive moving below. He pulled the line, expecting a catch. It snagged, then pulled back. He froze. The tug wasn't like a fish. It was slow, deliberate, as though something on the other end knew he was there. Must be a log, he muttered to himself. But when he reeled in, the hook came back empty. Except for a strand of hair. Human, black and long enough to brush the deck, Zakir's stomach turned cold. He looked around, no one else on the bridge yet. Just him and the low whisper of river wind. Then, a voice. Soft. Close. Beneath the bridge. Throw it back. He dropped the hair instantly. It fell into the water, disappearing without a ripple. He didn't fish that day. He just sat there until the sun rose, staring into the fog, trying to convince himself he'd imagined it. But deep inside, he knew the river remembers. Zakir had been fishing under Kasbah Bridge for nearly 20 years. It was quiet, close to town, and deep, perfect for catfish. He liked the routine, arrive before dawn, cast 3 lines, hum old songs, and wait for light. But since that scream, he couldn't hum anymore. The silence had changed. Every time his hook dipped into the river, He felt like he was disturbing something sleeping down there. 3 days later, the police pulled a body from the water, a local boy, Hamid, missing for 2 nights. His clothes were torn, but there were no bite marks, no bruises. Just silt in his lungs and a look of terror on his face. When Zakir heard, he felt sick. That was his fishing spot. The same spot. At the small riverside tea stall, men whispered about it. Hamid was drunk, one said. Fell in, another replied. No, the tea seller muttered, wiping a cup. Something's under that bridge. My uncle said people vanish there every few years. Zakir said nothing. That evening, he went back to the bridge, not to fish, but to look. The water moved lazily beneath, catching the light from passing trucks. On the concrete pillar, something caught his eye. Scratches, dozens of them, forming a jagged spiral. He touched it. The surface was smooth, almost polished by repeated contact. In the center of the spiral, a nail, freshly embedded, as if someone tried to pin something invisible there. A gust of wind blew through the bridge beams, carrying a faint echo. A hum. Not from him, not from above, but from below the bridge, deep in the structure itself. It sounded like a man trying to remember a song through water. For the next week, Zakir couldn't sleep. Every night, he dreamt of the river whispering through the floorboards of his small wooden shack. Sometimes he saw Hamid's pale face staring up through the water. Sometimes he heard that same voice, throw it back. He began drinking to dull the noise, but it only made it worse. On the 7th night, he went back to the bridge, bottle in hand, determined to prove it was all in his head. The moonlight carved a silver path across the water. He sat on the ledge, feet dangling, bottle swaying in his grip. You want me to throw it back? He said into the dark, half laughing. Fine, take everything. He hurled the bottle into the current. It bobbed once, then sank without a sound, and then he heard humming again. Only this time it matched his father's old tune, one he hadn't sung since childhood. Zakir froze. His father had died on this same river 15 years ago. Boat overturned in the monsoon. The humming grew louder, rising beneath the bridge's echoing steel belly. He leaned over the rail. Who's there? Nothing. Only black water. Then, from below, a faint ripple, and a bottle drifted up. The same bottle. Empty, but with a note inside. His hands trembled as he fished it out and pulled the paper free. On it, in his father's handwriting, not yours to take. He dropped the note instantly, backing away. His knees gave out. He sat trembling against the bridge post until sunrise. The next day, when he told his friend Salim about it, Salim laughed. You've lost it, brother. Too much alone time. Come see, Zakir whispered. That night they went together. Salim mocked the darkness, throwing pebbles. But when he leaned over the side, his expression changed. Zakir, there's something tied to the pillar. They climbed down carefully with a lantern. What they found wasn't rope. It was hair, long strands wrapped around the base, tangled tight with riverweed. And caught in it, a fisherman's hook, old, rusted, but familiar. Zakir's father's initials were scratched on the metal. Salim's laughter died. Let's go! They climbed back up fast, both pale. Halfway across the bridge, Zakir turned and saw water dripping from Salim's sleeve. Did you fall in? No, Salim's voice cracked. I didn't touch the water. The drops hit the concrete, dark and sticky. Not water. Blood. Salim screamed and stumbled back. His lantern shattered, plunging them into darkness. When the light from passing trucks briefly flashed across the bridge, Salim was gone. Zakir ran. Didn't look back. Didn't go home. He hid in the old boathouse downstream, clutching his knees, whispering prayers. By morning he returned, desperate, guilty. Maybe Salim had gone for help. Maybe he'd panicked and left. But at the bridge, police tape fluttered. A body lay by the bank, covered in a sheet. When they lifted it, Zakir saw the hand first, skin pruned, nails broken, a line of hook scars across the wrist. Salim. He vomited into the river, shaking uncontrollably. The officer beside him muttered, strange thing, lungs full of silt but no water in the mouth. Like he breathed the river, not drowned in it. Zakir walked away wordlessly, the river's hum following him all the way home. That night, the bridge creaked. Even from his shack he heard it, metal bending, water moving in unnatural rhythm. Unable to stop himself, he went out one last time. The bridge stood silent under moonlight, but beneath it, on the surface of the river, floated 7 fishing hooks, old, rusted, tangled together by hair. Zakir's reflection stared back from the dark water. Then another face joined his father's. "You took what wasn't yours." "I didn't!" Zakir cried. "You stayed when others left." The reflection didn't move with him anymore. When the first truck crossed above, its vibration sent tiny ripples across the surface, and Zakir's reflection blinked. He never came home after that night. The fishermen still cross Kasbah Bridge at dawn, but no one casts their lines beneath it anymore. The water looks calm, but every now and then a faint humming rises through the girders. An old fishing tune, barely human. Locals say if you drop something into the water there, a hook, a coin, even a stone, it won't sink right away. It'll hesitate, as if deciding whether to go down, and sometimes the river throws it back. Last month, a child found a bottle caught in the reeds. Inside, a torn piece of paper, ink smudged but still readable. Not yours to take. Every night at Deadwater Bend, a lantern flickers where no man stands. Fishermen passing by after dusk swear they see it. A soft orange glow hovering above the water, steady as a heartbeat. No boat, no voice, just the light. Then, as soon as anyone tries to approach, it sinks silently into the river. Most ignore it. Some pray. Only Ralph, a young fisherman from the nearby village of Gulamabad, ever tried to reach it. It was on the night his brother drowned. He'd been out searching long after others had gone home, rowing through thick fog. Then he saw it, that faint orange glow near the bend, hovering low and steady. He rowed faster, calling his brother's name. No answer. The closer he got, the dimmer the light became, until it vanished completely. When he looked down into the water, something floated up. A lantern. Rusted, half covered in silt, and tied to its handle, a piece of his brother's torn shirt. Deadwater Bend wasn't on any map. It was just a curve in the river where currents died before merging with the deeper stream. Locals avoided it. The water there was blacker than anywhere else, and sound carried strangely. Echoes came from directions that made no sense. Ralph had grown up near it. His family had fished this river for generations. His brother, Bilal, was the brave one, the one who'd laugh at old tales of the lantern keeper, a ghost said to lure fishermen to their deaths. The night Bilal drowned, Ralph was supposed to be with him, but he'd stayed home, sick with fever. When Bilal didn't return, they found his empty boat drifting near Deadwater Bend, oar broken, net torn clean through. The police called it an accident. His mother called it punishment. Ralph didn't believe in curses, but he couldn't stop thinking about that light, how it had appeared just when he'd lost his brother. He took the lantern home, cleaned off the mud, and set it by his door. It still worked. Somehow, after years underwater, the glass wasn't cracked and the wick lit easily. For the first few nights, Ralph left it burning. It gave him comfort, the way Bilal's laughter once did. Then came the voices. They started as whispers in the night, carried by the river breeze. Words he couldn't make out. Until one night, through the open window, he heard, "Don't follow the light." He froze. Staring at the lantern's soft glow, the whisper came again. This time closer, behind him. "It's not for you." Ralph stopped sleeping. Every creak of the house sounded like a voice. Every flicker of the flame seemed to breathe. He tried moving the lantern outside, but each morning he found it back on his windowsill, still burning. One afternoon he went to the village elder, Baba Sadiq, who'd fished the river longer than anyone alive. "Tell me about the lantern keeper," Ralph asked quietly. The old man's eyes narrowed. "Where did you hear that name?" "I saw the light. I brought the lantern home." Baba Sadiq's face went pale. "You fool. That's not a lantern. It's a promise. Someone dies holding it. It belongs to the river." Ralph frowned. "I just found it. It called me." "Then it will keep calling," the old man whispered, "until it's returned." That night, Ralph decided to do exactly that. He rowed out to Deadwater Bend, the lantern resting by his feet. The river was calm, unnaturally so. The moonlight stretched across the surface like a blade. He stopped rowing, lifted the lantern and whispered, "Take it back." But the flame didn't go out. Instead, it grew brighter, almost white-hot. The air thickened, heavy with smoke and river mist. And through that haze, he saw something, a figure waist-deep in the water, facing him. Bilal. Ralph's voice cracked. The figure didn't move, didn't speak. Then it raised its hand, not to wave, but to point. Downward, Ralph leaned forward, trembling. The lantern's light dimmed again, revealing what lay below the water. Another lantern, identical, glowing faintly beneath the surface. He gasped. Then the boat rocked violently. The lantern slipped from his hands, splashing into the river. The water hissed as if boiling, then went dark. Ralph paddled back in panic. But when he reached the shore, the lantern was already waiting on his doorstep. Dry, still burning. Over the next days, Ralph's world collapsed into silence. The villagers stopped talking to him. Word spread that he'd gone mad, talking to himself, rowing at night, leaving offerings by the river. But the truth was worse. Every night, he saw Bilal standing at the bend. Sometimes farther, sometimes closer. Never moving, never speaking, just watching. And each morning, another fisherman disappeared. Boats found adrift, nets torn, eyes open. Baba Sadiq came to him one evening, desperate. "It's happening again. The river's taking them." Ralph's voice was hollow. "It's not the river. It's us." He stared at the lantern flickering on the table. "I should have gone with him that night. It was my turn, not his." Sadiq shook his head. "You can't trade places with the dead, boy." Ralph smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but I can stop the call." He picked up the lantern and left before the old man could stop him. Down by the bend, fog rolled low over the water. The sound of dripping echoed through the reeds. He set the lantern at the bow of the boat, watching its reflection tremble on the dark surface. "Bilal," he whispered. "I'm sorry." The flame began to flicker wildly, casting shapes on the riverbank, faces, outlines, ripples that looked like arms reaching upward. Then came the voice, unmistakable, familiar. "Don't follow the light." Ralph's grip tightened. "Then take me instead." The flame surged. The boat tilted sharply as if pulled. He screamed Bilal's name one last time, and the river swallowed him whole. When dawn broke, villagers found the lantern still burning on the river's edge. No sign of Ralph. No boat, only the smell of oil and wet earth. Weeks later, fishermen once again began to see the light at Deadwater Bend. Some said it was brighter now, steadier. One man claimed he heard two voices when he passed by at night, both whispering the same thing over the sound of the current: "Don't follow the light." Baba Sadiq stopped fishing after that. He said the river had claimed its due, that some debts never end, they just pass from one brother to another. The lantern still burns on foggy nights. It never drifts, never dims, just waits. The storm came faster than anyone expected. By dusk, the wind was screaming across the river, throwing spray into the air like broken glass. Most boats had already docked. Only Haroun stayed behind, stubborn, broke, and one net away from paying off his debts. Lightning split the horizon as he cast his line. The river churned, brown and wild. He pulled once. Nothing. Twice. Snagged. "Come on," he muttered, straining against the weight. His hands bled against the rope. Then the net rose slowly, heavy with something dark. Not fish. A shape. Human. He froze as a face surfaced through the foam. Pale, eyes open, hair tangled in the ropes. For one terrible second, it looked exactly like his own. Haroun screamed and let go. The net vanished beneath the water. When he staggered back to shore hours later, drenched and trembling, the storm had passed. The river was calm again, but in the faint ripples, he saw it, his own reflection smiling up at him. Haroun had been fishing the Miran River since he was 16. It was his livelihood, his inheritance, his prison. His father had drowned there 15 years earlier. Another storm, another accident. Everyone said it was the current, but Haroun never believed it. His father knew those waters better than anyone. Something else had taken him. Now at 30, Haroun was alone. No family, no crew, just debts and a boat that leaked when the wind blew hard. The morning after the storm, he returned to the docks to find the other fishermen avoiding his gaze. "Should have come in early," one muttered. "Lucky you didn't go down like your father," another said. He ignored them. He just wanted to find his net. By noon, he spotted it snagged along the far bank. He rowed out slowly, stomach tight. The water was still, too still. When he reached the spot, the net floated half submerged, torn, empty, except for one thing, a single fish. Enormous silver, unlike any he'd ever seen. It wasn't moving, but its eyes were open, and inside its glassy surface, he saw something that froze his breath, his own reflection, faint but unmistakable, staring back. He yanked the hook free and threw the fish back instantly. The splash echoed unnaturally long, like the river itself exhaled. That night, he dreamed of his father standing waist-deep in the same spot, holding that fish in both hands. When Haroon woke, his hands were wet. Days passed. The river gave no catch. Haroon's nets came back empty each time, except for one. The same fish, silver, motionless, always returning. He stopped throwing it back. Instead, he watched it. It never decayed. Its eyes followed him when he moved. He began to hear whispers in the wind. Pull again. Just one more catch. Sleep fled him. His hands shook constantly. When he went to the village market, people stared at him strangely. Brother, said Fateh, another fisherman, you look like death. You been sleeping at all? Haroon forced a smile. Trying to catch what's mine. Fateh frowned. The river doesn't owe anyone. But Haroon didn't believe that. He believed the river had taken something, his father, his fortune, his peace, and he was going to take something back. That night, he rowed farther downstream than he ever had before, near the place they called Chodigati, a narrow gorge where the river bent sharply and the current whispered like human breath. He cast his net there, watching the moonlight ripple on the surface. Minutes passed. Nothing. Then the rope went taut, violently. Haroon braced his legs. Teeth clenched and pulled with everything he had. The net rose heavy and slow, water pouring off it in streams. His heart raced. When it broke the surface, he staggered back. The net was full of fish, dozens of them. All silver, all identical. Their eyes gleamed in unison, reflecting his face 100 times over. He screamed, slashing at the net with his knife until they spilled back into the river. But even as they sank, he could still see his reflection in the water, multiplied, distorted, laughing. That's when he saw the boat, an old half-rotten skiff drifting toward him from the shadows. Inside it, a man, barefoot, soaked, head tilted. Father? Haroon whispered. The man raised his head slowly. His lips moved, but the words came out like gurgling water. It's your turn. The next morning, Fateh found Haroon's boat drifting empty near the gorge. Inside, the oar was broken, the rope shredded, and a piece of torn fabric, Haroon's shirt, tied around the handle. They searched for him all day. But the current was slow, the water calm. Nothing. That night, Fateh returned to the spot, guilt gnawing at him. Maybe he shouldn't have let Haroon go alone. Maybe he'd been right. Maybe something was wrong with the river. He shone his lantern into the dark water. Something glimmered below. Dozens of tiny flashes. Fish, he thought. He leaned closer. The glimmers aligned, forming a vague human outline. Then a face. Pale, eyes open. Haroon's. Fateh gasped and stumbled back, the lantern slipping from his hands and falling into the water. It stayed lit as it sank, burning bright until the black closed over it completely. The next morning, the villagers found Fateh's boat drifting beside Haroon's. 2 boats. No men. The same silver fish floated between them, perfectly still. Weeks later, when the floods receded, a boy found Haroon's net caught in the reeds. Inside were 2 fish, fused together, belly to belly, like mirror images. He brought them to the market, curious. But when the butcher tried to cut them open, both fish split cleanly on their own, revealing nothing inside but clear, still water. That night, people along the Myron River swore they saw 2 boats drifting side by side under the moonlight. No oars, no sound, just a faint ripple moving between them, as if something unseen rode in rhythm. Now the fishermen say the river always takes what's owed, and when the current is quiet enough, you can hear someone whisper just beneath the surface, "It's your turn." The current never slowed near Kacha Bend, not even when the river dried half its banks last summer. That's what made Naeem pause. He'd been fishing that stretch for years, always knew the rhythm, the pull, the way the water spoke. But that morning the current didn't move at all, it just waited. The air hung thick with rot and silence. He dipped his hand in. The water was cold, too cold. A dark shape floated up from below, bumping gently against the side of his boat. Naeem reached for his pole, pushing it away, until it rolled over. A man's face, mouth open, eyes gone. But what made him recoil wasn't the corpse. It was the red string tied around its wrist. The same kind Naeem wore for protection against the river's pull. His pulse spiked. He looked at his wrist. The string was gone. He blinked, and the corpse was gone too. Just ripples now, slow, steady, like something breathing under the boat. Introduction, 900 words. The locals always said Kacha Bend had no bottom. A curse, a whirlpool, a sinkhole, no one knew. The older fisherman just said, "Don't fish where the water doesn't move." But Naeem needed the money. The mills were closing, the boats fewer each month. His wife was ill. He set his nets before dawn, when fog still licked the river's surface. The air was damp, heavy, almost whispering. He kept checking his wrist. Still bare. That red thread had been tied by Pir Javed, the old saint by the shrine. "Never take it off," the man had said. "It remembers your name when the river forgets it." Now it was gone. By noon, his nets began to move. At first he felt relief, a catch finally. But the pull was wrong, uneven. When he drew the line in, it snagged hard. He leaned back, tugging, muscles burning. The net surfaced slowly, heavy, dripping. And something pale flashed inside. He thought it was a fish. It wasn't. It was a hand. The fingers twitched, then stilled. Naeem screamed and dropped the rope. The net sank back. The river returned to silence, as if nothing had happened. Only the ripples stayed, small, patient circles spreading wider and wider. That night, Naeem sat outside his shack staring at the river. The lamps flickered in the distance. His wife, Sadia, slept inside, coughing softly. He poured tea into his cup but didn't drink it. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. He kept seeing that red thread tied around the corpse's wrist. In the market next day, he asked around, "You ever lose a net near Kacha Bend?" He asked an old man named Ilyas who mended boats for a living. Ilyas's eyes darkened. "You saw him, didn't you?" "Who?" "The man in the current," Naeem frowned. "You mean a drowned man?" Ilyas shook his head. "Not drowned, waiting. He takes the ones who stop listening. The ones who forget the thread." Naeem forced a laugh, but it came out dry. "Ghost stories." Ilyas leaned closer. "Then why is your skin so cold, Beta?" That night, Naeem returned to the river anyway. His pride was stronger than fear. He cast his line. The moon was half hidden behind clouds. The current looked alive. Half an hour later, he saw something float up again. The same body. Same red string, only now. Its face turned toward him, eyes open. "You took my place," it whispered. Naeem stumbled back, oar slipping. The boat tilted. He fell, head striking the edge, vision blurring. When he looked again, the river was calm, but he could feel the current pulling beneath him, gentle, like fingers wrapping around his ankles. He rode home, trembling. In the morning, Sadia found him sitting by the window, eyes fixed on the river. His red string was back on his wrist. Wet, for 3 days, Naeem refused to fish. He prayed, burned incense, tied the thread tighter. But the river kept calling. At night, he'd hear it, faint splashing, like someone rowing near his door. Sometimes he'd wake to the sound of a man humming an old boatman's tune just outside. Sadia began to worry. "You're hearing things," she said softly. "I know what I hear. You need rest, Naeem. I need to settle a debt." He went back one last time. At Kacha Bend, the water was still again, like glass. The moon glowed sharp and white. He dropped his net. The ripples spread slow, steady. Then the boat rocked once, twice. The net jerked so violently it nearly threw him overboard. He clung to the edge, pulling. The water rose higher than it should. Something enormous moved beneath it. A face surfaced. The same one. The same corpse, but this time it spoke clearly. "You took my life. Now take my place." Naeem screamed and swung his oar, hitting the water again and again. But when he looked down, he saw his own reflection, not gasping, not screaming, smiling. The current surged, flipping the boat. He went under. For a heartbeat, everything was still, cold, dark, weightless. Then hands grabbed him, pulling down deeper. into the whirl of the bend. He fought, kicked, clawed, but it felt like fighting himself. Just before his breath gave out, he saw it. Two figures in the water, one sinking, one rising. The rising one wore the red string. At dawn, villagers found Naeem's boat near the bend, half sunk, one oar broken. His red thread hung on the side, knotted tight. They dragged the boat ashore but found no body. 3 days later, a fisherman swore he saw Naeem standing knee-deep in the river, casting a net that never touched water. When they shouted his name, he didn't move. The next morning, another man drowned in the same spot. His wrist was bare. Since then, they say the current near Kacha Bend never stops. It always moves, slow and steady, as if something beneath it keeps breathing. And when fog rolls over the surface at dawn, fishermen claim they hear a voice whisper softly in the mist, "You took my place." It started with a scream no one was supposed to hear. The night shift at Ghazipur Dam was quiet, just the constant roar of water and the hum of generators. Tariq sat at the edge of the maintenance dock, his fishing line hanging near the outflow gates, where the current spun like a throat swallowing itself. He wasn't supposed to fish there. The engineers said the turbines pulled everything down, debris, logs, even boats. But he'd done it for years. The fish near the spillway were big and blind, fed fat on what washed in from upriver. The radio crackled with static. Then came a voice, faint, wet, bubbling through the noise. "Don't pull it up." Tariq froze. His line jerked violently once, twice, 3 times. He thought he'd hooked something massive. He gripped the reel, muscles tensing, pulling hard against the current. But whatever was down there pulled back, slow, deliberate, almost human. The water near the gates began to churn harder, darker. Something surfaced, a pale hand, limp, tangled in fishing line. Then the radio hissed again. "It's not done with you yet." The hand slipped beneath the foam. Tariq cut the line and ran. The next morning, the dam workers found the torn fishing reel near the guardrail. They laughed about it. Tariq was always breaking rules, sneaking in to fish the restricted zone. But he didn't come to work that day, or the next. His friend Imran, who worked security, went looking for him. He found Tariq sitting alone in his small riverside hut, staring at the dam. "You sick or something?" Imran asked. Tariq didn't answer at first. His hands trembled when he lit a cigarette. "Something's in the outflow," he said finally. "Like what? A crocodile?" "No," Tariq said, eyes distant. "Like a person." Imran frowned. "You saw a body." Tariq shook his head. Not saw, felt. That night, Tariq dreamed of the turbines. He saw the gates open, water roaring, light flashing, and between the spinning blades a shape pressed against the metal, watching him through the churning water. He woke drenched in sweat. His fishing line, the one he'd cut, lay coiled neatly at his bedside. For 2 days, Tariq tried to ignore it. He didn't fish, didn't sleep. The constant sound of water gnawed at his skull. Then Imran came again. "Boss wants you back," he said. "They're cleaning the spillway tomorrow." "You know that system better than anyone." Tariq hesitated. The thought of standing over that gate made his stomach twist. "Fine," he muttered. One night shift. The spillway was drained partially for inspection, enough to expose the lower grates. Massive shadows hung in the floodlights. Tariq walked along the railing, checking the pressure dials. Everything looked normal, until he noticed something. A dark stain on the concrete near the emergency valve. He crouched, touched it, slick, cold, not oil. When he lifted his hand, it smelled like river mud and rot. A whisper drifted up from the spillway below. Not water, words. "Why did you pull me up?" He turned, flashlight shaking. The catwalk behind him was empty. "Imran," he called. No answer. He forced himself to keep walking. But when he looked down into the grating, his light caught on something moving beneath the shallow flow. Pale skin, long strands of hair twisting in the current, a face turned upward, bloated, eyeless. He stumbled back. The flashlight fell, clattering off the metal and vanishing into the dark below. The voice rose again, closer this time, bubbling through the echo of turbines. "You fed me the line. Now it's your turn." Tariq ran. Imran found him hours later, soaked to the bone, kneeling by the riverbank downstream. His lips moved, but no sound came out. "Tariq," Imran shouted, shaking him. "What happened?" Tariq's eyes flicked up, hollow, red-rimmed. "It's still under there," he whispered. "What is?" "The one who drowned. The one they never found." Imran froze. "Who?" the engineer, Tariq said. "2 years ago, the man who went down the maintenance shaft. They said the current took him, but I saw his body once, tangled in the gate." He swallowed. "Now it's awake." Imran dragged him back to the hut, locked the door. Tariq sat staring at the damp floor, muttering, "It's turning again. It wants out." That night, Imran heard the dam alarms blare. He rushed to the control room. The turbine pressure had spiked, one gate refusing to close. On the surveillance screen, water thrashed violently below the spillway, though no power surge was detected, and there, standing knee-deep at the base, was a figure, barefoot, motionless. Imran zoomed the camera. The screen flickered, then froze. The figure lifted its head. Water streamed from its mouth, eyes black and hollow. The next moment, every light in the control room went out. The roar of water rose to a deafening pitch. By morning, the floodgates had been manually closed. The supervisors said it was a malfunction. They found Imran unconscious by the console, water pooled beneath his chair. Tariq was never found. His hut was empty, except for a single fishing hook hanging from a nail, still wet. Divers searched the dam's lower tunnel for 2 days. On the third, one diver refused to go back in. He said something brushed against his mask, a hand reaching. Now the men at Ghazipur Dam don't fish anymore. They say when the turbines slow at night, you can hear someone tapping from below, like knuckles on metal, and sometimes if you stand too close to the outflow, you'll hear a voice whisper up through the roar of water, "Don't pull it up." When they drained part of the Suleiman River for bridge repairs, no one expected to find anything except mud, broken bottles and maybe an old tire. By noon, the workers had uncovered something else, 7 fishing boats half buried in silt. All facing upstream, their hulls were split open like ribs. Inside each, a net still coiled tight around the benches. The foreman, Aslam, leaned over one and frowned. The wood was waterlogged but intact, as if it hadn't aged at all. "Anyone know whose boats these are?" he shouted. The locals just stared. Old Nabil, who'd fished this stretch for 60 years, whispered, "They belonged to the ones who never came back." When Aslam looked again, one boat seemed newer than the rest, paint still wet, rope freshly cut. There was a single name carved on the side, Tariq. The water downstream shifted, rippling against the dam's outflow, and though there was no wind, the nets began to move. Aslam didn't believe in river stories. He believed in concrete, steel, and schedule deadlines. But that night, when the pumps shut off and the exposed riverbed steamed in the cold, he couldn't shake the image of those 7 boats. He walked the bank with his flashlight, boots sinking into soft mud. Frogs croaked, insects clicked. The exposed river smelled of iron and something older, like decay that had waited too long. At the far end of the trench, a trickle of water ran through the lowest channel. It made a faint humming noise. When Aslam shone his light down, he saw movement. Fish, maybe. But they weren't swimming. They were still, floating. A pale hand brushed against a stone, turning in the current. Aslam jumped back, almost slipping. He swung his light wildly, but the hand was gone. Only the water hummed, low and steady. The sound grew louder as he leaned closer. And then, for just a second, it wasn't water anymore. It was breathing. The next morning, the workers found another boat, half buried further upstream. No name, no nets. Just a single red thread tied to the bow. Aslam's foreman, Babar, spat into the dirt. "You see? This river keeps its own dead. Don't start with that," Aslam muttered. "They're old boats. That's all. Then why's the paint still wet?" That night, Aslam stayed late again. He couldn't explain why. Some pull, a pressure in the air, the feeling that the river wanted him there. He followed the sound of the trickling current back to the trench. The water had risen a little, glinting under the floodlights. When he looked down, the same 7 boats were visible again, but this time, they weren't empty. Shapes sat inside them. Shadows. One of them lifted its head. Aslam froze. The face was pale, water dripping from hollow eyes. He took a step back, slipped, and fell onto the wet silt. The mud bubbled. Tiny air pockets broke the surface, each releasing a faint whisper. They remember. Aslam scrambled up, boots sinking deeper with each step. The water began to stir, rising fast as if something beneath was shifting. He reached the bank and looked back. The boats were gone. Only the faint ripple remained. That night his dreams were filled with faces, hundreds of them floating in black water. Some he recognized from old stories. The fisherman who vanished in a storm, the one who drowned near Kacha Bend, another pulled below a dam's outflow, all staring upward. Mouths open, waiting. By the fourth night, Aslam stopped pretending he could sleep. He went back to the site alone, following the sound of water. The floodlights flickered one by one. The river was rising fast, though the dam was closed. He reached the lowest point, the old channel where the current had been strongest before the work began. The air felt wrong, charged, thick. The water pulsed, expanding, then receding. Like lungs, Aslam whispered, "What are you?" The answer came softly, layered. Dozens of voices, male, female, old, young. "We are what you fed us. We are the catch. We are the current." He stepped back, shaking. The ground shifted beneath him. Something huge moved under the surface, the shape of a face forming in the ripples. It wasn't one face. It was many, overlapping. Naeem, Haroon, Tariq, faces from every story the fishermen told, but no one believed. "You opened the gates," they whispered. "You let us through." The floodlights went out. The world went dark except for the faint glow of the river. Aslam turned to run, but the water was already rising, climbing the banks, crawling toward him like fingers made of liquid. He tripped, splashing hard, and when he looked up, he saw a single boat drifting toward him, wooden, half-rotten. Its hull bore no name this time, only a single word carved crudely into the side: yours. By morning, the entire repair site was underwater. The project was halted due to flooding. Divers went down 2 days later. They reported seeing strange shadows moving along the silt, like nets dragging themselves upstream. Aslam was never found. But when the water receded months later, there were 8 boats embedded in the mud, each pointed upstream. Each had a net, and the 8th one, freshly carved, bore a name on the hull: Aslam. Now, every spring when the river floods, fishermen along the Suleiman swear they see those boats drifting silently against the current, one after another, like ghosts rowing home. The old men say the river doesn't forget. It just waits until someone calls it by name, and when you hear the water breathe, you'll know it's listening.